Chiefs rookie camp has been completed, as well as Rashee Rice in a bit more legal trouble possibly, and with that, Zay Jones visiting the Kansas City Chiefs this week. All that on this podcast here. Welcome back to the Papa Shrill Nose Podcast. If you enjoy the podcast, smash that like button, hit the subscribe, all that good stuff on YouTube as well as Spotify. Hit that follow button. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think about the episode and what you think about what's going on with the Kansas City Chiefs. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start with Rashee Rice. So right to the big news, as it was Monday night, I think Tuesday morning, in a Dallas club. It was reported that Rashee Rice had allegedly hit a photographer in the club. This was reported, at least where I first saw it, was Ari Marov on Twitter, and that was some news, right? I mean, that was tough to see right after, of course, everything going on still with the, whatever happened in the accident, the speeding, and Rashee Rice leaving the scene, as well as now with this situation. Although now it has come out, and this says 14 hours ago, so I'm recording Thursday morning, and so this report was two witnesses that were in attendance at the club said Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice did not have any physical contact with the photographer. It was just a verbal altercation. Rice could now be cleared by police in their investigation. So, a couple of things here. One, at this point, it's now a he said, she said, he said, kind of deal. So we don't have any video of anything I haven't seen anywhere. And that's the only thing that's come out. Was the initial report was he hit a photographer in the club. The second report that has come out now, which I don't know if I've seen any, this is ML Football that released this, which I don't know how credible ML Football is, honestly. So I haven't seen anybody reputable put anything else out, I don't think. I'm going to double check right here, but that's the only one that I saw. I've seen a lot of quote tweets of this post, but I haven't really seen anything else on it with those allegations, with new allegations against Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver. Totally different thing. Just got to do with fantasy football. Anyway, so getting back to that. So, I don't know. My thoughts on this Rashee Rice situation is either way, it's not a good look to be caught back up in the public eye in another, situation that's not good. It's not good publicity. And in the NFL, I don't think you're really in the business of any publicity is good publicity as a player. Just because, you're already out there on the field, and that's where your publicity should and needs to be coming from. So, tough news for the Chiefs. So that leads to Zay Jones joining the team today. He will visit, reported by Adam Schefter, per league sources. After Jacksonville released him last week, Jones has visited the Titans, Cardinals, and Cowboys, and the Chiefs are next, which I think that Zay Jones would be a sneaky good pickup, personally. Last year, obviously not as big of a year as he had the year prior. With the addition of Calvin Ridley, though, that's really what I think sparked that and kind of changed, the trajectory of Zay Jones. That was big for Jacksonville. He'll be 29 years old. Not sure when exactly his March 30th, so he just turned 29. But he'll come in being 29 years old. He's spent 7 years in the league, I believe. Yeah, 7 years. 2.5 with Buffalo, 2.5 with the Raiders, and 2 years with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And again, I think Zay Jones could be a sneaky little pickup for the Chiefs. He played all 16 games in 2022, so this is a couple years back now. 121 targets, 82 catches, 823 yards, 5 touchdowns. And I just feel like Zay Jones has been kind of a sneaky, player. With the Raiders, he was kind of the same way. And with Jacksonville, it's kind of been the same way as well, which he didn't get a ton of playing time in Las Vegas. looking at the numbers until his last year. So just 27 targets, 20 targets the following year, and then 70 in his final year with the Raiders, which is contract year. 47 catches, 546 yards, had just the one touchdown. But Jacksonville's where he really began to flourish. And with him being, I'm sure, let's go check it out. I'm actually on, so this morning, or maybe it was last night, I had a random thought about Richie James and what he's doing, and if he was still on the team, but he's an unrestricted free agent at the moment, which, I mean, Zay Jones, I think, would be a big improvement. And whether he almost reminds me of a Justin Watson. You know, Justin Watson's kind of sneaky, makes some big plays here and there, but I think that possibly you could even see, an uptick with the Chiefs. With Zay Jones, I think that he would be almost maybe more fitting for that role. So Zay Jones was supposed to be an unrestricted free agent next year. And let's see, I can't see the whole contract on Spotrac. So what we're going to do is we are going to check out over the cap. But yeah, I think Zay Jones could kind of just fit right in the Kansas City Chiefs offense. That's interesting. I just seen Chase Claypool was signed by the Buffalo Bills. I missed that one, I guess, at some point. That was on May 3rd. Yeah, May 3rd, 1 year, $1.25 million. What is that? Oh, 2. Oh, no, that's $25,000. That's what I thought I saw. Chase Claypool, a hefty $25,000 guaranteed. So let's look at what Zay Jones had left on his deal with the Jaguars. I don't know if it's going to pop up. I was just trying to see what he was still owed, because you probably could get him on a very cheap deal if the Jaguars are still on the hook for this year. But it doesn't show for 2024 anymore, I think, since he was released. It looks like, okay, 2024. So he'll be 6.5 of dead money. And honestly, I'm not 100% sure if that means he gets paid that, but I'm pretty sure it does. That he'll still get paid out that money. Or I guess it depends on how much is guaranteed. So Zay Jones, though, I would really like that pickup, especially if you don't know what Rashee Rice's situation is going to be. At this point, you've got Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown. Sky Moore, how much do you trust Sky Moore? Past that, Justin Watson, how much do you trust Justin Watson? I mean, Kadarius Toney, I think we all have about the same feeling about Kadarius Toney in this receiving corps. So mine is Rashee Rice. Even if Rashee Rice didn't get into any trouble in this offseason, I still thought the Chiefs maybe were one piece away from having a very good receiving corps. I still felt like they needed some help. So we will see. I'm just take a quick look at the cap space right now for the Chiefs. So the Chiefs are still sitting at a 16.1, just a little over 16 million in cap space. And I mean, that's solid. That's pretty solid. Just 5 million, just under 6 million, 5.9. Just under $6 million in dead money, which is dead last. Or, I mean, first. That is the lowest amount. The Bengals are about the closest at 6.5 million. I mean, Brett Veach, man, he does such a good job on being able to keep the cap in good standing. I mean, to have $16 million right now to be able to spend, that's big. And I mean, if you could get Zay Jones on a small deal, bring him in for a year, get him kind of a prove-it deal. Obviously, he had a much decreased role in Jacksonville last year, so I mean, you're not really able to show off your talents. 64 targets, 34 receptions, 321 yards, had 2 touchdowns, but I mean, Zay Jones just was not utilized in the same way. He went from 121 targets in 2022 to 64 targets in 2023. So roughly half of the targets, and he reeled in a little less than half the passes, 34 compared to 82 in 2022. So Zay Jones needs a spot where he can fit in, and I think that if the Chiefs are going to sign Zay Jones, you'd like to get him in quicker rather than later, just so he can be really a part of this offense and hopefully a part of this offense day one, just because we know how Andy's offenses are. And sometimes it takes guys a while to pick them up. Granted, Zay Jones is a vet, and I think he'd be able to jump in and help out this offense. And even if it was the first few weeks, he was kind of essentially a decoy, running motion, and, we'll see. And especially if the Chiefs do end up signing Zay Jones, I'm definitely going to want to jump into some film on him just to see exactly, what he is as a receiver, just because I haven't really, dug deep, obviously, on Zay Jones. But I feel like every time that we saw the Jags or the Raiders while he was part of the team, it seemed like he was always just kind of sneakily popping up for, random big gains and, just having decent games. It seemed like he was just solid, And I think that's what the Chiefs need. They need some consistency and some solid pieces to just kind of keep them, each level good. You know what I mean? Like Hollywood, hopefully he can bring an explosiveness to the table. Xavier Worthy, you're kind of hoping also kind of jumps in and helps out with that as well, of kind of bringing some explosiveness back to the offense. But you need those guys also, which Hollywood Brown, and if you haven't watched my film review on Hollywood Brown, go check that out. That's the last video I put out, how Hollywood can help Kansas City or help the Chiefs. So, because he can be that too. He can kind of be that possession receiver and find soft spots in the zone. But I think you want to get more explosiveness out of Worthy and Brown. And I think that adding a piece like Zay Jones, which, Rashee Rice would be, but Zay Jones almost replaces like an MVS. Justin Watson also, have those guys to be solid, because I don't know what you're going to get out of Kadarius Toney. I don't know what you're going to get out of Sky Moore in 2024. So those guys are big question marks in the offense. And right now, other than that, you've got Justin Watson. Obviously, with Worthy being a rookie, you have no idea what he's going to do. And speaking of Worthy, we'll transition right into the rookie camp, because Xavier Worthy showed up in the rookie camp and looked pretty good. Obviously, that drop was going around social media just because of last year and all the drops with the Chiefs, and so I think Worthy is going to be a solid receiver for the Chiefs. And maybe not year one. Maybe he's not going to be, setting the world on fire in year one or anything like that. But I do think down the line he's going to be really solid, and special teams is probably going to be his key role this year. He was fielding kicks throughout the rookie camp, and I think that's huge because the Chiefs need somebody solid back there. And that's one thing I will say about Kadarius Toney. I don't mind seeing Toney field kicks, because off the top of my head last year, he still had his moments when he was returning. But, you look at the Super Bowl against the Eagles, his kick return, or his punt return, that changed the complexity of the entire game. And I don't know if the Chiefs win that Super Bowl without Kadarius Toney returning the punt the way he did. Right there at the end of the game, setting the Chiefs up in prime field position. And that's such a huge deal, because field position is such a battle, right? And so I think that Worthy is going to bring something new to the table and hopefully be consistent, and that's something the Chiefs have really lacked on in special teams-wise in the last couple of years. Obviously, Sky Moore and all his troubles. Toney had his troubles. Even when Tyreek Hill was here, he had some troubles. McCole Hardman as well. So, that's been kind of a rotating door for the Chiefs anyways. And, obviously as these receivers kind of get more in tune with the offense and seen more. Obviously, Hill, we saw, tapered off big time from special teams to the offense once he became a star receiver in the league and the top receiver for the Chiefs. And so, Worthy will probably follow that trajectory, but the Chiefs just haven't found a way how to transition to the next guy. I almost see the punt return position almost like a closer in baseball for the Chiefs, just because it seems like in this day and age, closers are just a revolving door, and no one's able to stay consistent very long in that role. You have your outliers for sure, but at the same time, for the Chiefs, they just haven't been able to find that stability returning the ball, and it's caused some big issues, right? And so here we are heading into 2024. Hopefully Xavier Worthy's going to be that guy, and if not, I feel like Kadarius Toney is not a bad number 2 option at fielding punts and kicks, because I don't know what option he is at receiver. So, but more on rookie camp. Kingsley Sumatai had a great rookie minicamp from what I've heard and seen online. Obviously, no pads, no contact. I think they put on pads. Well, no, I don't think they put on pads at all. But no contact at all. They were allowed 7-on-7 and 11-on-11. And that's pretty much the depth to it in the rookie camp. Just come in, get some workouts, see some other guys that, you wouldn't probably see otherwise, guys trying to make the team. And obviously your draft picks you get to see for the first time. So I'm excited to see what Kingsley can bring to the offense as a tackle. And we'll see. We'll see if he, is able to end up starting. I did talk about on the last podcast, or maybe on the Hollywood film review, I'm not sure, but working on Wanya Morris film. And Wanya Morris, man, I mean, this whole offensive line, but like, Wanya Morris is a dog. Like, looking at his film, I mean, there's definitely some things that need to be cleaned up, but definitely I think a high motor player, and doesn't give up and continues through the whistle, and that's a big deal. And this whole offensive line, you kind of see that way. Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith. I mean, I don't know how many highlights of Trey Smith I've seen where he's just going down the field and just mowing everyone down just because he's just having fun. He's out there playing football. Or even in my film reviews last year, just watching film of Trey Smith, I mean, that guy does not stop. And this whole offensive line kind of has that mentality behind them. And this offensive line almost reminds me of that early mid-2000s line where you had, Will Shields, Willie Roaf, Casey Wigman. That whole offensive line was just great. And collectively really, really solid. And I feel like this offensive line is the same way. And the Chiefs run the football well because of it. That's a big part of, I think, the Chiefs running game. They protect Mahomes pretty well. Not a lot of complaints. So that left tackle spot, though, is definitely one that I have been, I'll just say, nervous a little bit all offseason, just because, what are the Chiefs going to do? What are they going to be able to put at left tackle? Obviously, last year with Donovan Smith, and he has not come back. We haven't seen anything about him really all off season. I don't think that he ever announced his retirement or anything like that, but we'll have to wait and see on Donovan Smith. But at this point, I don't think that we'll see him come back with the Chiefs. I think you got 2 viable options at left tackle upcoming. And, if Wanya starts, have your swing tackle as Sumatai. If Sumatai starts, you got a swing tackle with Wanya Morris, who can play both sides. He played both sides at Oklahoma. So I want to say Wanya played a lot of right tackle at Oklahoma. I want to say there was another tackle that came out the same time last year. Shout out Donovan Smith, 93. Man, when you see things like that, it just puts in perspective age, right? Donovan Smith seems like a older player in the league. Obviously, his years with the Bucks, but good enough year with the Chiefs last year. But like I said, I just don't see at this point Donovan Smith coming back. The Chiefs kind of got him on a cheap deal too. I think it was just right around $1 million. To look up what his salary was last year. Yeah, okay, it's $3 million. 1.9 guaranteed, right under $2 million guaranteed. So, I mean, if anything, could help add a little bit of stability, but at the same time, you don't want to take away from anyone's growth. I think Wanya Morris might be at that point where he's ready to move up into that starting role, especially what he did last year with, I think it was the Packers and the Raiders game, both he played in. And I can't remember past that. There was the Chargers game. the last week of the year when the starters rested. He played that game as well, but Donovan Smith had a couple of games where he left with injury. Trying to see exactly what those other games were. So I know there was at least one other game that Wanya Morris also played in Vegas. It was the other Vegas game. So both games against Vegas and the Chargers game, Wanya Morris had big roles in, whether it was injury or just filling in to give some rest to guys. So could definitely see Wanya take a bigger leap in year 2 and get a much bigger role. So with that being said, I think that's about all I got to say today. So with that, if you enjoyed the pod, smash that like button, hit the subscribe, hit the follow over there on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, or right here on YouTube as well if you're watching. I guess video version is available now on Spotify as well, or the Substack, papasherknows.substack.com. Check that out as well. Haven't been writing too much over there, but film review is up over there as well as on the YouTube channel. So follow along wherever you'd like to. Pretty much posting everything on all the platforms or as much as I can. So I think until next time, throw your comments down. What you think, Wanya Morris or Kingsley Sumatai, who's going to be starting left tackle, and the Rashee Rice situation. I don't know where you see it going from here. Is Zay Jones coming to Kansas City? We'll see. Until next time, though, you already know. Go Chiefs.